when we set goals, which I like to call them destinations because a goal would assume you may or may not get there. Destinations is like, yes, we're going to get there. It's just only a matter of time. But when creating destinations, you've got to keep it within your sweet spot. And your sweet spot is essentially on a scale of 1 to 10, you believe at an 8 or a 9 that you will achieve the goal. Because what happens is if you put too much on your plate too soon, it creates a lot of overwhelm. It creates a lot of disbelief and doubt and anxiety. And when we're in too much disbelief, doubt, and anxiety, we end up actually sabotaging and pushing those goals away. This is where procrastination comes in, all these kinds of things. Now, when there's a little bit of doubt, that's okay. That's actually good because that 20% of doubt is what's going to stretch you to get better.
What's something that's been one of the hardest things you've ever had to endure or overcome in your life so far?
Yeah, well, there's many. I guess we'll start from the beginning. So my parents had me when they were in high school. So they're 15 and 17 years old. They never got married. I was an accident. So, and when my mom was 18 years old, she joined the military, and she later found out that when you're in the military, you cannot have your children with you unless you're married. Now, I don't know if it's the same thing or if it's just for women, not for men. I don't know the rules. That was just what it was back then. So a few years after she joined the military, she married my stepfather. And later on in life, she told me it's because really she married him because she wanted to be with me. And so I ended up moving in with them, moved across the country to Maryland, lived there for a couple years, and then being in the military, every couple of years, they move you around, right? So then we moved to Hawaii, and we lived there for a few years. My mom ended up getting divorced and marrying my stepdad, and we ended up moving to Washington. And then we lived in Washington for a few years, and then we came back to California. So just right off the bat, at the time, I didn't see it. But at the time, I looked at it like that was a bad thing, right? Like, oh my God, man, I got to move somewhere every couple of years. And as a kid, it's traumatizing in the sense of like, man, I just lost all my friends. I gotta be the new kid all over again. I gotta deal with like trying to fit in, bullies, all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until later on in life that I realized that's actually one of the best things that ever happened to me, because what it taught me is I can go anywhere, anytime, any place, and I can make friends. I can meet people. I'm somebody that just doesn't care in the sense about rejection. Everybody has a little bit of that rejection, but like I can go out and meet people, you know what I mean? And that developed my character over time, and just, you could drop me anywhere and I'll make it happen. So I would say that was one of the first things that I had to overcome throughout my life.
Yeah, that's awesome that you share that. That very similar here. 17 moves, 21 years, dad, military family. I appreciate that you're able to take it as something that was really challenging in the moment, and then go full circle years later and say, you know what, this is actually the best thing that could have happened because it helped to shape me. So thank you for connecting that dot. I wonder, do you have any stories about that first day of school and you had to move again? Where there was a bully, or you couldn't sit with anybody at lunch, or just any challenging first day of school stories? Yeah.
And honestly, to be honest with you, I used to be kind of a bully as well. I used to, and looking back on it, knowing what I know now, it's one of those things where you're being a bully because you don't want to get picked on. So it's like, hey, if I attack first, nobody can mess with me. And so there was definitely times you get in school fights and stuff like that. And then you start to go, okay, I'm not going to be the victim. I'm going to be the terrorizer. Right. And then as time went on, I realized that that's not nice, and you shouldn't make fun of people, and you shouldn't, want to hurt people and everything else. But there was this one time actually in high school, and this was actually just a guy who was messing with me because this girl that I knew, she told him. But this guy, his name's Mark Sabal. I think it was a freshman. He was a senior, and he was state wrestling champ, way bigger than me, just like probably had 60 pounds on me. I was a skinny little twerp as a freshman. And he came up to me. I forget what he said. But he's like, hey, man, you've been messing with so-and-so, or you want to fight? And I just remember I just shrinked up. I was like, oh my God, this is so scary. And he's like, nah, I'm just messing with you, and blah, blah, blah. I was like, man, I would say in high school is when I dealt with more of like bullies or people like that, as opposed to more younger years. And I developed a callus around that. And so And now that doesn't happen anymore, obviously, but.
Yeah, whenever you mention the name that Mark character, does any specific emotion come up, or
No,
is
no, no, no,
any
no.
emotion at
He
all
was
come up for
joking. He
that?
was like,
No.
I'm just messing with you, dude.
Oh,
So and so put me up to it. And I was like, damn, So yeah, no. And now, I'm a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. I know how to defend myself. I've been in tons of fights. So it is like, yeah, I don't have that anymore. Don't get me wrong. Like if something happens, your adrenaline's going to get running. But yeah, it's
yeah,
just,
yeah,
and honestly, like looking back on it, one of the reasons why I wanted to learn martial arts and everything else because of all those instances. So, the people, it's funny because in high
yeah,
school, there would be guys where maybe they were jealous because their girlfriend flirted with me and this definitely happened multiple times. And, they would pick on me and I would be afraid. I'd be like, oh shit, this guy's an older guy and he's going to beat me up. And now like those same guys, it would just, 30 seconds and I'd just take their life if I wanted to. But, it led me to down that road of being a martial artist and everything else.
yeah. Do you remember the first fight you ever got in? What was that like?
In high school?
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. Take us to high school.
um, man, I don't remember the first one. Let me think, but I do remember one in particular. Um, I think it's the only time I've ever been knocked out. These two guys were at a party, and these two guys were like arguing, and we're all drunk or whatever. I was like 16, and I was like trying to break it up. I'm like, hey guys, blah, 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 calm down. And one of the guys turned to me, he's like, I forget what he said, but he's like, mind your own business or whatever. And he threw a punch, and I dodged it, and then I just knocked him out, and he just collapsed. Boom. And the next thing you know, I'm like on the ground and I'm like kind of waking up and my buddy's picking me up off the ground and taking me inside. And I don't know what happened. Well, later on, I found out that one of his buddies who was behind me, he saw me knock his buddy out. So he just ran up and just boom, just knocked me out. And it was one of those things where it was a flash knockout. I hit the ground. I woke up and, I was like, oh shit. There was this other time. This is probably one of the more brutal things that I've ever done to somebody, but it is what it is. All is fair in love and war. Me and my buddies we were at this graduation party, and I don't know who started it, what happened, but there was like my crew and their crew, and a melee just broke out in the middle of the street in the middle of the night. And so everybody just started fighting. Boom, boom, boom. I remember I was probably 18, this like 40-year-old dude squared up on me. We kind of went back and forth. And then he kind of was like, oh shit, this guy's getting the better of me. He went on. And then I saw another guy somebody was on top of my buddy. And this guy was kind of coming in to pull my buddy was on top of somebody beating him up. And the guy
Yeah.
who was getting beat up, his friend came and pulled him. And while he wasn't looking, I went up and I just hit him with the right hook, broke his jaw. He literally went like this and just collapsed on the ground. So
Oh,
yeah, that was probably the most brutal thing I've ever done to somebody. But again, it is what it is. We're all fighting and shit happens.
yeah. Well, I thank you for owning, the challenges from the past and everything that's happened so far in our
Mhm.
discussion. So I appreciate you being transparent, Dom. And I'd love to kind of move forward here to,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
was there a
Does
moment?
fighting make you nervous?
Uh, well, maybe it used to. I mean, I've talked about this getting bullied until I grew bigger than everyone because I'm 6'7"
Yeah.
now, and
Oh
also
yeah. Nobody
taking
wants to mess with
martial
you
arts.
now.
Not
Oh,
now,
what
but there
martial
was
arts
a
did you take?
time. Well, I took Weichi Karate when I started, which was just katas, and I don't think it was really worthwhile in any way, shape, or form, other than I got to wear cool gi. Then
Uh,
afterwards, now you say, purple belt in jiu-jitsu. There's a lot of guys in this group I'm a part of that how we got connected through Scott Groves that are in the
Scott. Yeah.
front row dads. They do jiu-jitsu all the time. They're like super intense about it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm by no means a purple belt, don't practice it regularly, but hanging out with people that are purple belts and higher in jiu-jitsu and getting my butt kicked a few times,
Uh-huh.
that alone I think qualifies me to at least have a bare understanding of grappling.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
A
practice anything
6 month
actively
white belt
now.
can beat up
uh,
most of the population. So yeah, totally.
I feel that the size will probably keep most people away, and I don't talk
Yeah,
loud enough to want to go and start fights anymore.
yeah. I haven't
So
been in a fight in probably 6 years. So
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel good about that. Now, I kind of envision there's a place. Have you ever seen that movie Tombstone back in the early
Yep.
90s with Kurt
Mm-hmm.
Russell, Val Kilmer? I mean, there's a scene at the beginning of the movie where, the guy is taking the horse off of the train and he smacks the horse with the rope. Kurt Russell
Uh-huh.
grabs the rope and smacks him and says, "Doesn't feel good,
Yeah.
does it?"
Right. I
And just
remember that.
the look in his eyes was enough that no one wants to mess with him. And I
Yeah.
feel that with our size, that we may be able
That's
just to look
100%.
and people don't want to fight unless they're like, MMA fighter looking for it. They
Yeah.
don't hang
And
out at
even those
bars
guys
at night
don't really,
anymore,
no. That's probably
So
why I haven't been in a fight, because I have a family and nobody,
yeah,
when you're in those scenarios, it's always a possibility. So yeah.
the things that we do earlier in life that teach us lessons that lead us to where we are now. I'd love to fast forward and kind of go
Yeah.
to where you are now. Dom the Hypnotist. How did you become Dom the Hypnotist, Dom?
Yeah. So from 18 to 30 years old, I sold insurance for the most part. There was a time in there where I took a little break, tried to start up a solar
Okay.
company, and I did a couple other things, and it didn't work out. And so I ended up getting back into doing insurance, like I said, up until about 30. And man, I remember the last year I was doing it, I would drive around every day. And I was just thinking to myself, oh my God, I hate doing this. I hate doing this. I hate doing this. And I'm so tired of doing it. But I was making six figures. And so at the time, it seemed like a lot of money. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do it. And I'm really good at it. Like the last year I was there, I was the number 2 producer in the whole company. But I just dreaded going to work every day. Now, I'm a hard
Yeah.
worker. I'm a grinder. I'll get the job done regardless of how I feel. But I just remember driving around thinking, man, there's something out there more for me. I just didn't know what it was. So anyways, my mother, in Christmas of 2018, she purchased me. My gift for Christmas was a hypnosis course. It was a 3-day introductory course, and I was like, "Wow, this is really cool." I've always been interested in hypnosis and NLP, but I just never knew where to start, or whatever the case may be. So, anyways, she gets me this course. And I don't think anything of it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go and, maybe learn a cool party trick or release some stuff I've been holding on to. So 3 months later, I go to the course, and in 3 days, I just completely shifted as a person. Like I got out of that course and I was just different, and I could feel it. Like I could feel the energy in my body shift. And so on that Monday, I said, you know what? All those days I was driving around hoping and wishing and praying for something else, I'm like, this is the thing. Like, this is what I was put on this earth to do, is help people feel like I feel right now. So now I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just did a 3-day course. So obviously you got to actually start learning. And so I initially made a goal. I said, I want to do within 6 months or sooner, I want to fully transition over from doing insurance to doing hypnotherapy full time. That's where I set my timeline. And the first week I went out and I worked with a bunch of people for free. I did like 45 sessions. Some of them were quicker than others, some of them were longer. And I just started taking action. Boom, 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 boom. Well, after a week of working with 45 people, your confidence grows and you realize, hey, you know what? It wasn't just the people in the course I could hypnotize. I could hypnotize people outside this course as well. So now the second week, I gained a little bit more confidence, and I said, okay, I'm still going to do the sessions for free, but in return, I want people to give me a testimonial, post it on their Instagram, their Facebook. So I went out and I worked with more people. So within that 2-week time span, I worked with over 100 people. And now that I had people posting for me and getting testimonials, it was literally 2 weeks to the day. I woke up on a Monday. I had 10 appointments to go sell insurance. And I just literally, I could not physically get my body to go. Like my body was just like, we're done. You're not going in your car. You're not driving anywhere. You're staying here. And I messaged my assistant, who still actually works with me till this day. And I said, Rochelle, message these people and call them and say, I'm not coming in today. And I said, that's it. I'm never selling another insurance policy ever again in my life. And I made that decision. Right after I made that decision, I got on the phone with my little brother. I said, yo, I'm going to do hypnosis full time. I need your help. I'm going to do like 2 sessions with you for like $200 or whatever. It's something crazy. And he's like, oh man, I was like, dude, just help me out. Come on. Boom. Okay, cool. Got on the phone with my sister, did the same thing. And then long story short, that ended up, turning into what it is now. For the first 12 months, it was a struggle. Like I took a huge pay cut to do this for a living,
Mm-hmm.
but it was,
Yep.
I never once did I regret it. Never once did I go, oh man, maybe no, I was just happy doing what I do. And now it's led into where we're at today.
Wow. Okay. So hold on a second. So you said that, insurance 18 to 30, you took the course. By the way, I didn't escape me that your mom offered you the course and it took 3 months before you took the course, right? So
Well,
you
no,
took
it
the
was
course.
she bought it, but then the course was scheduled for 3 months out, anyways. It was an
3 months
in-person
out.
event. Uh-huh.
Okay. 3 months out, you take the course, 3 days, and you're like, hold on a second, I got to do this. 6 month
Mm-hmm.
window, 6 month goal window.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks later, you're like, hey, Rochelle, I'm done. Two
Yep.
weeks.
We're telling them we're done. Isn't that
Dude,
crazy? Now,
wow.
here's why
That
this
is
worked.
pulling the trigger fast.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and mind you, I was in like $80,000 worth of debt. I had a baby on the way, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So, I knew it was the
Dude.
right thing to do. So I just pulled the trigger. Well, the reason why that works so effectively, and this is a principle that I teach, and that all my people on my team, that we dive into people, is when we set goals, which I like to call them destinations, because a goal would assume you may or may not get there. Destinations is like, yes, we're going to get there. It's just only a matter of time. But when creating destinations, you've got to keep it within your sweet spot. And your sweet spot is essentially on a scale 1 to 10, you believe at an 8 or a 9 that you will achieve the goal. Because what happens is if you put too much on your plate too soon, it creates a lot of overwhelm. It creates a lot of disbelief and doubt and anxiety. And when we're in too much disbelief, doubt, and anxiety, we end up actually sabotaging and pushing those goals away. This is where procrastination comes in, all these kinds of things. Now, when there's a little bit of doubt, that's okay. That's actually good, because that 20% of doubt is what's going to stretch you to get better. Now, if you're setting a destination that's a 10 out of 10, it's too easy. You need to stretch yourself. But again, if you're stretching yourself too far, if you're trying to lift 300 pounds and you barely lifted 150, the freaking weights are going to fall on your chest. So you got to build up
Mm-hmm.
to it. So my point of saying that is that initially my sweet spot was 6 months, because if you told me, all right, Dom, you just got out of this course, it's Monday. In 2 weeks from today, you're going to completely quit doing something you've been doing your whole entire professional career. You're in all this debt. By the way, you got a baby on the way, and you got to figure out how to make this a viable source of income within 2 weeks. I would have said, it's impossible. There's no way. Don't even try. But because I said it within
Yeah.
that sweet spot, I took action. Through that action, a week later, my confidence grew. And then actually after the first week, I said, I could do this in 3 months. So my goal cut in half. And then after the second week, boom, here we are, 2 weeks, and made it happen.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
I've so many questions. I just love to ask you this. Then you said it's led you to where you are now. Talk to us a little bit about, where is the business now, and what are some of the lessons along the way?
Yeah. So now I have 4 hypnotherapists that work for me. I also have a team, a sales team as well, 4 people. We're actually adding on 2 more people here pretty soon. I just hired a COO, Chief Operating Officer, to run all the back end day-to-day stuff. And so our team is growing really, really fast. So essentially, I've worked with over 2,000 people on a one-on-one basis. That doesn't include like groups and everything else. But through that process, I just refined everything down to literally a science. And what I mean by that is we have a system where and I could take anybody who's passionate about doing this, and I could teach them this exact process. And within a week, they can cause massive change in somebody else's life. And when I say that, I mean like taking somebody's like, I want to be a hypnotherapist. I want to learn how to do this. I want to help people change their lives. I can teach them very quickly to where in their first or second session with somebody, they will give them such a life-altering experience that person that they're working with will never be the same in a positive way. And so when I first started off in hypnotherapy, as many people do, I didn't really know like what was my niche, what was my thing, what did I want to do? So, I
Mm-hmm.
tried quit smoking and weight loss and addiction and anxiety, depression, all these different things. And after doing that, I just realized that the people that I love to work with the most are business owners and salespeople, simply because I was a business owner and a salesperson for a really long time. And actually, before I got into insurance, I sold marijuana. And this is back in the days when it was illegal. So I used to sell it, grow it, the whole thing. And then I decided, hey, let's take the professional route. I'm tired of like worrying about the cops all the time. So from 16 years old, I've always been an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? So I decided these are the people I want to work with. I want to work with people who have problems, but they're coming to me because they want to excel, not necessarily because they're depressed and they aren't having they want to feel better. It's more of like, hey, I want tangible results. I want to come to somebody and their income doubles, triples, quadruples, 5X's, 20X's, whatever the number is. That's what I love helping people do, because let's be honest, money solves most problems. And so if you can help people solve that problem, that you can help afford them an amazing life. So that's what I love to do. That's what I'm the most passionate about.
Whew, man, I love it. So was there a point in this growth journey, Dom, where you realized that is exactly who I want to work with? I had to coach a lot of people through all these challenges to get to the point where now I'm niched to work with business owners and other people. How did you get to that point of?
So it is interesting. So in the NFL season of 2021, I started working with a client around like OTAs and before preseason, right? Now, this gentleman was like a fourth stringer. And we started working throughout the year, and he started getting better. Number one, he's a hard worker. Number two, we're doing the mental work, right? We had a lot of clearing out we needed to do. Well, halfway through the season, because of all the work he was doing on his mindset and the work he was putting in as well, he finally got his opportunity for his first start. So what we would do is we get together every Wednesday. And in the NFL, when you're playing a new team, you got to memorize the new team's playbook, right? So, hey, they're in trips wide, look out for the slant, or look out for the deep ball or the play action, whatever. So we get together every Wednesday, and I put these plays in a hypnosis recording. Well, this Wednesday, obviously we jump on the call. He's like, yo, I'm a little nervous. This is my first start. So if there's anything extra we haven't done yet, now is the time to do it. So I said, okay. I said, you know what? Here's what I want you to do. I'm going to create this sleep hypnosis. I'm going to create this hypnosis recording, and I want you to loop it throughout the night. So while you're sleeping, just have it playing in the background. Now, up until that point, although I am a hypnotist and I was a hypnotist then, I wasn't really sold on the whole sleep hypnosis thing. I was kind of like, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. You're sleeping. How do you know it works, right? You're blacked out. But I knew it wouldn't hurt, so I said, listen to it, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. Well, Sunday rolled around and he messaged me after the game, and he said, Dom, I've never been more in tune with what the other team was going to do. And he said, It was like I knew what they were going to do before they did it. So I'm thinking, all right, thank God it worked. It like actually helped. And also it got the wheels turning, and I was thinking, all right, maybe there is something to this whole sleep hypnosis thing. So a couple weeks later, I found this sleep hypnosis on YouTube, and it had millions of views and had thousands of comments. So I started going through the comments, and there's just comment after comment after comment. People saying, I started listening to this. I made $10,000 this week. And some of them were smaller. I got $500 out of nowhere the next day. Deals are closing, all these things. And I'm thinking, is this real? There were so many of them. I was like, maybe it's bots, maybe he paid people, but there were so many. I'm like, this is undeniable, right? So I figured I'm going to give it a shot. I got nothing to lose. I'm going to be sleeping anyways. I might as well do it. So I started listening to the sleep hypnosis on a Tuesday. And by Sunday, we had our biggest week ever at the time, by about 50% more clients. Literally, like clients were coming out of the woodworks. I was getting DMs, phone calls from old clients, referrals. Like it just was like whoosh, right? So I was like, oh my God, this video is like actually working. But there was a huge problem. And the problem was 50% more. I didn't have a huge team like I do now. 50% more clients is great, but that also comes with 50% more work. And I was already tapped out as it is. So I actually stopped listening to it. I was like, yo, I gotta like let this cool off a little bit. So I stopped listening to it, and that was what it was. Well, a couple months later, an epiphany came to me. I'm like, Dom, that sleep hypnosis thing is really powerful. I'm a hypnotist. How about I just create my own sleep hypnosis recording? But instead of creating like more work, let's do it around creating more money, more success while doing the same amount of work or even less. So this is where things kind of start to get interesting. So I created this sleep hypnosis. I put it on my YouTube. I put it on my Instagram. And within a couple of days, people started getting results. They're like, dude, deals are closing that weren't closing. My calendar's booking up. A couple people got raises, just all these great things, right? And I didn't know if it was going to work. I was kind of like, let's see what happens. And it started working. Well, then other people had a different response. And other people were like, dude, I think the file's corrupted. Something's wrong with it. I can't understand it. It sounds like it's in a different language, blah, blah, blah. So this is my first sleep hypnosis. It's 8 hours. I figured maybe I screwed up something in like the editing process of making the video. I don't know. So I just chopped it up as what it was. Well, a few months later, this is when I really started to niche down, and I was like, you know what? I only want to help business owners and salespeople, because that's what after like working with all the different types of people, I would just find that when I jump on a call with a business owner or a salesperson, I was just a little bit more excited, right? Because I'm like, oh, we're going to go, whatever. So when I made that decision, I started giving all my business owner clients and salespeople the sleep hypnosis as a part of their homework of going through my process, right? So I start giving everybody that comes on the sleep hypnosis, same thing. Within a couple of days, people are like, deals are closing. I'm making more money than ever, blah, blah, blah. And then the other thing about people not being able to hear it. Well, on Sunday, I think it was Sunday, October 2nd, if I remember correctly. And one of my clients this is just last year in 2022. And one of my clients messaged me and she goes, Dom, I think something's wrong with the recording. I said, what's going on? She said, the first couple of days I could hear it perfectly fine, but now it's kind of distorted. I said, I've heard this before. Screen record it, send it to me, and I'll see what's up. So she screen records it, sends it to me. I play it. I can hear it perfectly fine. So I tell her, I'm like, I can hear it fine. I don't understand the issue. Well, then about an hour later, she messages me back and she's like, Dom, I think I'm going crazy. I said, what's going on? And she goes, I just showed my partner your recording. We're in the same exact room, listening to the same exact thing, and she can hear it perfectly fine, but I can't understand it. She said, it sounds like it's in a different language. So I'm just like, I'm sitting there like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, what? I just responded, what? Question mark, question mark. And I go, all right, I don't know what's going on. Let's talk about it next week in our session. So a week goes by, we jump on our call, and I got to see it for myself. I'm like, what is this? So I share my screen and I play the recording, and sure enough, I can hear it perfectly fine, and she can't understand a word. She can read the captions on the screen, but it's not processing in her mind. So I just intuitively went with, again, this is all new to me. I don't know what's going on. So I figured, I said, her mind must be blocking it out because it's afraid. Like there's something in the recording that's causing her fear, and her mind's like, no, we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. So I had her close her eyes, and we went through it's an affirmation, right? It's 2 sentences or something. And we went through piece by piece, all the little parts of the affirmation. And basically I said, hey, subconscious mind, why are you not letting me hear this little part? Large sums of passive money come to me. Well, because I'm afraid that I won't be able to handle large amounts of success. Okay, cool. The next part comes to me easily and quickly. Why are you not letting me hear that? Oh, because I believe that you have to work hard to make money and things can't come easily. Okay, cool. The next part is multiple sources. Why are you not letting me hear that? And she goes, I don't think I can handle multiple sources. And there's more to the recording. So long story, and she also believed that when she became really successful, her family would get jealous and envy her. She was afraid that people would attack her. She'd get lawsuits. People would try to steal from her. All these fears. There's like 8 of them. So what we did is piece by piece, we went through, we removed each fear, each limiting belief. And then lo and behold, 45 minutes later, I play the recording and she can hear it as clear as day. So that's the basis of my program. Now, here's what's crazy. People that are listening to this may not believe this. It is what it is. up and right now, as we're speaking, there's had to have been 200 or more people who have had this same experience. So it's not like it's a one-off thing. It's happened to many people. And believe it or not, I have clients that are multimillionaires and they'll listen to it and it'll get distorted on them as well. So it's not just like people that don't have money, or that there's certain parts that'll start distorting on them that they can't hear. And I'll tell you, we'll kind of stop here and I'll tell you some more. Before we got on the call, you said, "Oh, I told you I was just on a call with somebody." And it kind of ties into what we're talking about, but I'm sure you have some questions, and then I'll go over the call that I had this morning, and it'll also it'll make this sound even crazier. So yeah, that's the basis of our program.
Yeah, this is amazing. I remember before we got on the call, I was looking at your Instagram, and I saw a video of you sharing this story of coaching this NFL player. It's an amazing video. What's your Instagram handle for those out there listening?
Dom the Hypnotist, and you can find me on Dom the Hypnotist on all platforms. So YouTube, TikTok.
It was amazing. I mean, I saw, I was listening, I was like, what? Really? That happened with someone, and it happened. It's like when you hear the word hypnotist, some people have the stigma attached to it, including myself. I've not had a successful hypnotist session. I've not hired Dom yet, team. Maybe that's the learning lesson here. But the point is that there might be this block that people might have in the mind about hypnotism. So if there's someone listening who's heard it and they're like, "Oh man, I don't know if I can hear hypnotist," then what might you say to someone who might be blocked just the idea of hypnotist?
Look, I had all the same stuff. I used to believe it's black magic. There's some special power they have. They're worshiping the devil, all the same that everybody thinks, or I can't be hypnotized, everything. And what it is all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, which means that we all go in and out of hypnotic states all of the time, many times throughout the day. So if you've ever caught yourself driving down the freeway and suddenly you arrive at wherever you're going and you're like, "Oh shit, I don't remember the drive." Like it just boom, you're there, right? You ever had that happen?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, what happened there? You went into a state of hypnosis. Now you were conscious, you were aware, you were awake, but you went into that trance-like state where you lose track of time. There's a little amnesia, and that's all hypnosis is. Now, the difference is between that and working with a professional is that we're purposely and intentionally putting you in hypnosis for a reason, right? We want to find out what blocks you have, what fears, what limiting beliefs, so we can remove them so you can have more success in your life. So that's number one. Number two, most people associate hypnosis and hypnotists with stage hypnotists, which, by the way, all that stuff you see on movies or on like YouTube of people doing a stage show, making people act funny, that's all real. And as a matter of fact, before I became a hypnotist, one of the first things I did when I moved to Las Vegas is I went to a hypnosis show because I had my doubts. And, I'm sitting there and you're like 30, 40, 50 feet away from the stage, and he brings all these people up, he hypnotizes them, and it's like, oh, these people are not acting. They're actually, something's going on here. They're in some type of like trance or whatever. And at the time I was like, oh, this is mind control. It's not. What it is that there's a certain amount of people, and there's certain types of people who are willing to go up on stage and go through a stage hypnosis show. Okay. There's certain people that aren't. And for a long time, I was one of those people, even after I became a hypnotist, I'm like, you'll never catch me up on stage. Hell no, I'm not going to do that. Now I'll be the goofiest one up there just because it's fun, but, typically when you see people at a stage show, what happens is the hypnotist will bring up 30, 40 people. He does his little thing. And then there's only about 8, 9, 10 people that stay. And those 8, 9, 10 people that stay are just more open and willing in that moment to go through the hypnosis process. So it's like they're playing along, but they're not, but they are. So the way I always describe it to people is, imagine you're a little nervous to speak to people at a party, right? What do you do to get rid of nerves? I don't drink, but most people drink, right? And what happens after you have 2, 3 drinks? Well, suddenly you're more open, you're more loose, you're not caring so much about what everybody's thinking. And that's the same feeling that hypnosis gives you when you're in those stage shows. You might come in like, ooh, I don't know, I'm a little bit, okay, let me go up there. And once you relax your mind, you relax your body, your conscious mind kind of checks out, it gives you that same sort of like, all right, I don't care anymore. Let me just have a good time. So everybody could be hypnotized. Look, another thing people will say is only weak-minded people could be hypnotized. I said, that's funny. Tell that to my NFL clients, my UFC clients, my Olympic clients, my Navy SEAL clients. They're the
Okay.
most successful people in the world are the easiest to do hypnosis. You know why? Because they understand how to follow instructions. And number two, they want to get results. So when you say, hey, go into hypnosis, they will go into hypnosis because they want the outcome. So that's what I'll say to
Mm.
people who maybe don't know what it is or how it works or whatever.
Yeah, they haven't tried it. They haven't tried.
Yeah.
Like, I've not tried your brand yet. I'm incredibly excited to try it now that we're talking. I remember I felt this very similar way about doing breath work. I'd never done it before. First time I ever did it, I was crying like a baby, and I had a lot of breakthroughs because I was open to trying it, and definitely open to trying what you're sharing. Can you
Yeah.
share
Yeah.
a story? And you have to name names, of course, with confidentiality. Can you share a story, Dom, of a meaningful client experience where they overcame something, and it's why you do what you do? Some meaningful example
Yeah.
would be great.
Man, I could share many, many stories. And there's so many great ones that we could go forever. Well, one thing I'll tell you. So before I got on this call with you, right?
Mhm.
Speaking of like your mind distorting certain things and everything else, I had a client and we jumped on the call and she said, Dom, I tell you something. I said, what? And she goes, on Monday. So I do like a group call every Monday and I do different things. So
Yeah.
I'll teach techniques about just sales, influence, how to use your language to be more persuasive, all that kind of stuff. I'll teach about body language. Sometimes I'll do hypnosis, group meditations. I'll tell stories. I just do different things, right? Well, this past Monday, I told a story about a friend of mine that passed away and the whole process of what that was like. One day he's there, one day he's not, and everything that followed it, right? The how everything turned up afterwards. And also tying into, how a lot of people hold on to resentment and things like that and how important it is to let go. Well, as this woman was on this call, she said, Dom, yeah, as you started telling the story, right around when you started talking about how when you picked up the phone and your buddy told you that your buddy had passed away, she said that everything from that point forward for about 20 minutes was distorted. She said, I literally couldn't hear what you were saying. Yeah. She said, how like if you're underwater and people talk, she said it sounded like that. And
Man.
and then she said, and after like 20 minutes of listening to you talk about that, I ended up falling asleep and my phone turned off. And it's fascinating because we talked about the money thing and how the mind will block it out and everything. Well, it's the
Yeah.
same thing with everything. If your mind is afraid to address something, it's afraid to confront something, it doesn't want to do it, it'll do everything in its power to try to avoid it, right? So it'll distort you from hearing it. Believe it or not, it may even not allow you to see it, right? So,
Mm.
there's times in the world where the writing's on the wall. Everybody can see the truth about something, but there's just certain people where you put their face in it, open your eyes, look, and they still can't see it. Like, no, 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 this isn't the. So when our brain gets triggered in that way of the fear, it'll literally block you from hearing things, seeing things, etc. And anyways, we went through and we cleared everything out. And what was happening with her is essentially, look, for the audience, okay? Anytime there's a pattern in your life, it is not by accident, it is not bad luck, it is not out of your control. It is something going on deep within your subconscious mind that's projecting itself into your reality. Okay. And what we discovered with her, and I'll tell you way crazy. Like there's levels to the crazy stories I could tell. We'll go at like level, if one is the highest, we'll go level 4 right now. But,
Okay.
because certain things, they're just not for everybody. But, what we discovered, this lady is there was a lot of avoidance of certain things going on. She's got these lawsuits and this and that. And what we discovered is that she believes that she has to have a burden in her life in order for her to be motivated to get better. And she also believes that she had certain beliefs around men and, her dad wasn't there. So she was like attracting these men that were like her dad to fulfill that sort of quote unquote dad in her life. But her dad was an asshole. He's, everything else. And so she kept
Yeah.
attracting these men. And so once we let that go, now, one of the crazier stories I can say, I would say this is probably level 3. If number 1 is the highest, this is level 3. I had a client come to me one day, really successful businesswoman, and she owns a couple companies, and she came to me for business stuff. So first call, we go through, we clear a bunch of stuff out. She feels great, cool. Well, the next week we had our second session booked, and hours before our session, she messaged me. She goes, "Oh, Dom, I got in a car accident, and I'm not going to be able to make it." Now, I know because of my life experience, because of thousands of people I've worked with, when you get into a car accident, when you have a lawsuit, when you have a blowout fight, when somebody robs you, these are not accidental. And this is a very hard concept for people to understand. And if you're listening to this, have an open mind to what I'm going to share with you, because when you can really understand this concept, it will completely change your mindset and get you and empower you to be able to craft your life how you want it. So she gets in a car accident. She messaged me, and I say, and I'm thinking in my head, oh, there's something here. We're gonna have to dive deep into what's going on in this situation. So she scheduled her session the next week. Hours before, she's like, "Dom, I have a extremely bad headache. My back is in pain, and I have brain fog, and I'm not going to be able to make it today." So I said, "Okay, have a little empathy, whatever." Next call, same thing. Well, finally, by the third time, I said, "No, I don't care how you feel. We're doing this today because I know I can help her get rid of all these pains and everything else like that." So anyways, we finally jump on our call, and I explained to her this foundational principle that everybody should really install deep into their being. And that is the principle of cause and effect. You can call it a law, you can call it a principle, you can call it a commandment, whatever you want to call it. So cause and effect states that in life, we are either at cause or we're at the effect. When we're at cause, it means we take responsibility for everything that happens to us. And when I say everything, I literally mean everything. Okay?
Everything.
When we're at the effect, everything. When we're at the effect, it's always somebody else's fault. It's his fault, her fault, the government's fault, my mom's fault, my teacher's fault, whoever. It's always some outside thing or entity or whatever. Now, when you're at the effect, you lose personal power to change, because you're saying the reason why my life is this way is because of this outside force. So therefore you lose your power. So to give you guys a perspective shift on this, and then this story that I'm going to share with you is it's going to activate your pineal gland, and it's going to expand your consciousness, and it's going to change your paradigm. I had a client one day. She goes, you can already feel it. I know you can. And I had a client one day, and she came to me. She's like, we're talking about her problems and challenges, we'll say. And she's like, this is happening because my ex-husband, he manipulates me all the time. He's just, he's so manipulative. He's just such a good manipulator. You don't know him, Dom. He's a good manipulator. And I said, okay. Now, is she at cause or is she at the effect? She's at the effect. She's saying the reason why my life sucks is because of him. So I stopped there and I said, okay, is it that he's a good manipulator, or are you easily manipulated? Because there's a difference. One is it's his fault. There's nothing I can do. The other one is, no, I'm allowing this to happen. This is happening because of me. And once she had the realization of, oh, I'm allowing the manipulation to happen, guess what happened in the manipulation? It stops, right? Now, how does this tie into what I was talking about with the woman? Well, I explained to her cause and effect. And I said, look, you created this accident in your life. And again, people listening to this are going to have a very hard time with, some people are going to have a hard time with listening to this. And some people who have an open mind, this is going to, again, be one of those nuggets that changes their paradigm. So I explained to her, I said, look, okay, let's pretend, just for the sake of the call, let's just pretend you created this. Okay. Just humor me. So, okay. Now, by the way, we get on the call. She said her headache's like a 12 out of 10. Her back aches like an 8 out of 10. And her brain fog is so bad that she can't remember things. She keeps losing track. She can't focus. So anyways, we go through my process. This was a process I was telling you about, where I can take anybody who wants to help people, who wants to be a hypnotist. I can teach them these step-by-step questions and this process, and you can create massive change in people's lives. And so long story short, what we discovered is that her subconscious mind told her the reason she created this scenario of this accident is because she wanted a break in her life. She's a successful businesswoman. She takes care of she pays all her family's bills. She has a business partner who's lazy, doesn't work, and she's constantly taking on the workload, and she's always helping everybody else, and nobody ever helps her. So as she's in hypnosis and she's like this, and she's like, I just need a break. I think I created this accident to give myself an excuse to take a break, because otherwise she wouldn't, right? She's very hard charging, no excuses, that kind of thing. So anyways, we discover that, we let it go. She opens her eyes and she's like, oh my God, that was crazy. And I said, yeah. I go, how's your head feel? Where's your headache? And she's like, it's gone. I said, are you sure? Check, double check. She's like, yeah, I don't feel it anymore. I said, okay, how's your back feel? And she's like, oh my God, that's gone too. I said, okay, where's your brain fog? And she's like, no, I can think clearly again. So the reason I share that is anytime something like this happens, it is something internal that needs to be addressed. And until you address it, your body will send you signals. And the way it sends you signals is pain, brain fog, headaches, backaches, disease, cancers. All these things are like your check engine light is just flashing. Hey, there's something we need to address. And in her case, she needed a break. She needed to take some time to give herself that time. So that is probably one of the more paradigm shifting experiences that I've ever had with a client. And again, I got 100 of those stories like that.
Dude, that's amazing. That's amazing. When that happens, when you have that level of change that you see happen in someone real time live, how does that make you feel, or what does that do
it's
inside
the best
for
feeling
Dom?
in the world. It's the best feeling in the world. On Monday, we had our biggest revenue day ever. We did like $53,500 in sales on Monday, right? And it felt okay. Like seriously, and part of the reason why that is because I've been visualizing this for so long that now it just I'm used to it. Even though that was the first time that number happened. When you visualize, I always tell people visualize something so vividly and so frequently that by the time it happens, it feels like deja vu. It feels like I've been here 100 times, because it is. So, anyways, we have that $53,500 or whatever it was day. I was like, cool. My team was more excited than I was. I was like, I already knew this was coming, so whatever. Now, I'll have a client go, another gentleman the other day, he was sick. He kept rescheduling our calls. I'm sick. And I already knew where it was going, but I don't tell people. I like to let them discover for themselves. So we jump on the call and, whatever. And, this guy, since he came on board, his company just started exploding. And he's like, dude, we're going to have our first 6-figure month. And before that, they were doing like $35,000 a month. So tripled his income in like 6 weeks or whatever. Well, in the process of that happening, there's also a lot of growth and a lot of things that have to happen in order for you to continue to go. Well, what we discovered after putting him in hypnosis, he went back to his childhood. He's like, Dom, it's funny because when I was like in kindergarten, I used to always make myself sick, and I'd be coughing and pretending like I'm tired, I'm sick, and this and that. And he's like, because I didn't want to do the schoolwork, I don't want to be at work, I want to be at home with my mom. And he's like, as soon as I found out I'd go home with my mom, I wasn't sick anymore. And I said, okay, how does that relate to what's going on now? And he goes, I think I'm making myself sick to give myself an excuse to not do all these little tasks and things that I know I need to do in order for the company to grow. So it's like my way of giving myself an out to not have to do the work. And then once he found it out, he opens his eyes. Suddenly, he feels 10 times better. And he has a solution to what he needs to do in order to not have this experience. And I've had this with I had a lady who, same kind of scenario. She kept getting sick. We jump on the call. She's like, every time, she has twins that are 3 years older in preschool. She's like, every time my kids get sick, I always get sick, but my husband doesn't. I'm like, all right, let's go in. And what we found out with her, and by the way, we get on the call, she's pale. She like barely is able to even stay awake. She's tired. She's worn out. She's got twins. She's, sick, whatever. We go through what we discovered with her is when she was a kid, her mother abandoned her and was, at first was mean to her and then abandoned, left altogether. And she thought subconsciously, hey, I don't ever want my children to have that same experience. So therefore, whenever they're in pain, I got to be in pain. Whenever they're sick, I got to be sick, because it keeps us connected. Well, once we discover that, we release it. She opens her eyes. I'm getting the chills talking about it. She opens her eyes and she's like, oh my God, Dom, I'm not sick anymore. And this is the first time this ever happened, like one of these little experiences ever happened. And I was like, are you sure? And she goes, yeah, no, she's like, I'm fine. I feel great. She's like, I have all this energy. And her face had blood, her eyes are glowing again. And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe that. She's like, I am not sick. I feel totally fine. And so these are the, paradigm shifting experiences that many, many people have when going through our process with me or with one of our hypnotherapists. So
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. How might someone who's listening today find out more about your process? I have an open mind. I want to find out more. How might I find out more
yeah.
about your process, Dom?
Yeah. So, like I said, my salespeople are also trained in hypnotherapy. So, our initial consultation, you can call it a sales call, whatever, is not just that. Because what we actually do is we take you through a step-by-step process to discover and bring to the surface why these issues. So, like, I'm telling you all these people, like, oh, I found this out. That's what we do on our initial call. We do a deep dive so that we can know here's all the stuff we got to clear out. Now, being aware of it is half the battle. The other half is actually going through and clearing it, and that's where we come to play. So, I can give you a link. Somebody can go in. They just book a call on our calendar. One of my certified hypnotherapists will do the initial intake call, and then we put together a plan custom to you on what we need to do. Now, with my program, we have a 4-pronged approach, and maybe this changes in the future, but as of now, this is the process we do. You have your one-on-ones because you need to have one-on-one attention. One-on-one is obviously the most powerful. It gives you the fastest results because you have that third party, right? Or that second pair of eyes. Number 2, we put you through my money magnetism program. So the sleep hypnosis I mentioned, well, there's also a deeper dive into that, which isn't long. It's not some like, oh my God, it's going to take me 40 hours to go through this process. No, it's very quick. You learn how to do your own self-hypnosis so that any point in time, if you ever feel blocked, rather than having to go run to a hypnotist or go find somebody, you can remove your own blocks like that. 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. You can have something that's been weighing on you for your entire life and then it's gone. So you go through that process. Now, again, we have people of all income levels, and my clients that are the richest still have money blocks. They still believe they have to work really hard in order for it to be worth it. They still believe that things can't come quickly. They have all these beliefs. So you go through that. Then I do a weekly group call where we do, like I said, meditation, mindset, and things like that, which is extremely powerful because number one, you're in a group of people. So you're around like-minded individuals, other business owners, other salespeople who are also wanting to get better. So you get a lot of people who ask really good questions where you're like, oh, I never thought of that. Okay, cool. And on top of that, being that I run a 7-figure business that's going to be 8 figures very soon, you get to work with somebody, not just on yes, there's a subconscious beliefs and everything, but also there's tactics, there's strategies, there's techniques that I can, in one sentence, I can go, oh, somebody asks a question, do this, do that instead. And then that one thing completely changes their business, right? So you have that aspect as well. And then the fourth and final thing is we do an in-person event, and we have one coming up at the time of this recording. It's August 18th, 19th, and 20th, live here in Las Vegas. And that is another breakthrough that people get as well. And they get to come out. And if they can't do it in person, they can do it virtually. But they get to come out, again, be around all these like-minded people who are in personal development, who want to get better. I always say the best people I've ever met, and in my opinion, are at personal development seminars. So if you're a single man looking for a girlfriend, or you're a girl looking for a dude, personal development seminar is the best place to do it. If you're in business, you're looking for a business partner, you're looking for people to buy your products, personal development seminars are the best place because it's people who are willing to invest in themselves. They're willing to spend the time to go there. So these are just the best people, in my opinion. And so we do that. And that where we go even deeper into helping people get personal breakthroughs, mindset shifts, and then people actually get to come out, because we do everything virtually. People get to come out, get hypnotized by me live in a group session. And I go even deeper into stuff. Like I purposely hold stuff off for the event that I don't teach in my groups. I don't teach in my program, so that it makes it like a new experience for people. So it's a very, very powerful process. It's a life-changing, paradigm shifting experience because you get all of these things. Don't get me wrong, can you still get an amazing breakthrough by only doing one-on-ones? Absolutely. I did that for a long time. And then what I realized is that, like, people get a breakthrough and then they kind of get stuck again. So now they're at a new level. Cool. They get the breakthrough, but then there's another ceiling, right? So by having the groups, having the program, having the event, it just breakthrough, 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 breakthrough. And that's why we get, I've had people come to our program within 5-6 weeks. They double, triple, quadruple, 5x their income within 5-6 weeks. I got one of my other clients. He was doing solar in 2021, I think it was. He did 300,000 in sales for the whole entire year. I just talked to him a couple months ago. Now the guy's doing $500,000 months, not year, months. And that was within like a year of going through our program. His income went up like 20 times in 1 year. So that's how powerful reprogramming and programming your subconscious mind is when you go through this process.
Wow, it's absolutely amazing. And this is just proof is in the pudding here. The number of testimonials you'll see, people that go to Dom's Instagram. You've heard the stories today, and I've witnessed this and seen it on the Instagram and hearing you share the stories and you're seeing the testimonials. It certainly works. And if you've gotten in this conversation, dear listener, to a place where you're at the edge of the pool, you have an open mind to try it, then reach out to Dom the Hypnotist Instagram. I think right now, when I look, there's like 70,000 followers on it. He's legit, and I'm looking at him in the eye right now, and this is authentic and this is genuine. And Dom, thanks so much for joining us today, my friend.
They feel it.
Yeah.
And look, here's the thing:
I feel it right now in your presence. I feel it.
You feel it, right?
Yeah, it's good.
Just energy.
Yeah.
And look, if you've made it this far in the podcast, it's because you need a breakthrough. You want a breakthrough, and guess what? You deserve a breakthrough. And if you don't think you deserve a breakthrough, that is a subconscious block. No, I don't deserve a breakthrough. Believe me, you deserve a breakthrough. So go click the link wherever this is, book a consultation. And I promise you're going to go, damn it, Dom, where the hell were you 5 years ago? Where the hell were you 10 years ago when I started this journey of personal development or a business or whatever? So.
Well, you're definitely joining us at the right time in the life for a number of people who are going to hear this. So, listeners, I encourage you to go check out Dom. Dom, a couple questions to wrap things up today.
Yeah.
I'd love to go to our lightning round. Ding, ding, ding. When I say eternal optimism, what is eternal optimist or eternal optimism? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, well, eternal would mean till the end, and optimist is you have it's a glass half empty or the glass half full mentality, and that's everything. I was just telling somebody this the other day. There's this meme on Instagram. I've seen it, and it's two guys. One guy's they're on a park bench. It looks like they're probably in New York. One guy's dressed in a nice suit, tie, watch, shoes, everything. Just looks like $1 million. And the guy sitting next to him is homeless. He's got a beanie and a jacket, and he's all dirty, and you could tell he's not in a good place. And underneath the thing, it says, these are two brothers. And when the stock market guy or whatever he was, when he was asked, hey, what's the key to your success? Like, how did you end up at this point? He said, well, my dad was an alcoholic. He was an asshole, and he used to beat me. And so I made a promise to myself that I'll never, ever, ever be like my dad. And that motivates me every single day. And they asked the homeless guy, they say, hey man, how did you end up homeless? How did you end up an alcoholic? And he said, because my dad was an alcoholic, he was an asshole, and he used to beat me. So two people, same exact circumstance, completely opposite results. And why is that? Because the guy in the stock market suit, he's an eternal optimist. He's looking at the glass half full, whereas opposed to the guys going, oh, woe is me, the glass half empty, play a victim. So that's the mentality. When we talk about eternal optimists, I also think of being at cause, taking responsibility for everything that happens in your life, figuring out how to solve the problem, figuring out how to find solutions for everything that comes your way. So that's what I would say eternal optimist means to me. It's perspective.
Whew! You may have just won first prize gold medal, best answer in the history of the universe. So that is a win. That is a definite win. Damn it, that was awesome. So Dom, you're a learned man. You're an educated. You're self-reflective. I wonder if there have been any books, 1 to 3 books that have had an impact on you in this journey of yours.
Somebody asked me the other day. They're like, "Man, what book should I read?" And to be quite honest, I don't read a lot. I do listen to podcasts. One thing I love more than anything is taking in-person courses and even group courses where I can learn directly from the source, right? So like tomorrow or this weekend, I'm going to a 3-day mastermind at this gentleman's house here in Las Vegas. And he's actually a hypnotist and he does a lot of speaking from stage and everything. And so I'm going to go learn from him. Well, a month ago, I went to a 3-day workshop that he did. And not next week, but the week after, he's doing I paid for this whole entire program and I'm going to a 4-day thing. Then in August for 3 weeks, I have a training, an NLP and training is 3 weeks long. And then after that, I'm going to put on my own event. And then after that, I have another 3-day thing I'm going to. So I like to do live, either live in person or live online, because you get to go directly to the source. But if I had to answer that question on what books to read, there's a great book. I didn't read it, but I listened to the audiobook. It's by Alex Hormozy. He talks about like creating, irresistible offers. I forget the name of the book. That's a very, very great book because it is some mindset stuff, but it's more tactics and strategies. There you go. $100 million offers. Yep. That's a great book that I've listened to. And I would say that was that book. And then definitely there's this book called The Wizard Within. It's a book by this gentleman who's a hypnotist. And this is the first book I ever read on hypnosis. And I consumed this sucker in like a day. I just sucked it all in. It was part of our process for the thing. And a book I just recently read is a book called, and this is very good for people who are in business, it's called Rocket Fuel. And what Rocket Fuel is about is helping you understand the importance of having an operations person, right? So my favorite thing to do is this: speak, tell stories, motivate, inspire, open up people's minds, get that pineal gland activated so they can take their lives to the next level. This is what I love to do. Now, systems, operations, putting stuff together, I don't want to do that. So having somebody, this book teaches you the importance of it, how to find the right person, everything else. And so just having that person that can support you in your journey. So if you're running the business, if you own the business, what key players you need. So that's a very great book that has definitely changed my life because, oh my God, I don't have to do as much computer stuff. I don't got to do all this other stuff. I get to focus on me, so it's amazing.
And this has been so enlightening and inspiring to hear you, meet you today, Dom. It's been a real pleasure. We'll wrap up with this one last thought. We were introduced by a mutual friend by the name of Scott Groves. What's a reason that when you think of Scott Groves caused you to smile?
Yeah. He always has a good attitude. Actually, let me say this, Scott. Maybe he's watching this. When we do jujitsu, he kind of, I'm not going to say it. Forget it. Man, it doesn't matter. But I'll leave.
Tell us.
What were you going to say? No. Actually, well, when I haven't trained as much recently because I keep getting injured. And it's like one injury after another. And also, I'm building out my business where now that I have my operations person in, for a while there, it was like 18, 20-hour days. And there's no time for jiu-jitsu because I just hired all these people. And if I take a step this way, everything could crumble. So it was a very delicate time where I just had to put the nose of the grindstone. Now that I have my operations person and we clean stuff up a little bit more, I'm going to have all the time in the world to do jiu-jitsu. Actually, as a matter of fact, you know what she told me yesterday? She goes, Dom, I don't want you to do any of this back end stuff. I'm going to take care of everything. All I want you to do, she's like, I want you to wake up, go work out. I want you to go home, eat. Then I want you to go get a massage. Then I want you to go get acupuncture. And then we're going to have you at such a high vibration, such a high level that when you come into these calls, you're just going to be dominating even more. And I was like, that's exactly what I want. So, but I would say Scott is a very, very personable guy. He has his own way of being funny and quirky as well. And he does stuff like this. Like I didn't ask, he was just like, hey, let me connect you with Matt. But right now, to answer your question about the I would say we're probably, and I'm a lot bigger than him, we're probably pretty even on the mats just because he takes private. He's very, very dialed in. If I was his size, he would whoop me for sure, 100%, even right now. So I'll be honest, he'll probably get me. But, I'm 235, he's probably 180, so I got 55 pounds on the guy, so luckily.
Nice. Man, just thanks so much for gracing us with your time, man. We love you. We appreciate you. Thanks so much. And, wish you the best, sir.